This is a Willets Point Shea Stadium bound 7 express train. The next and last stop is Willets Point, Shea Stadium.
Oh, yes, it is. Anthony Rivera here with you, talking about all the news and happenings surrounding that team from Queens, the New York Mets. It's a Subway to Shea series preview. We got the Mets and Cardinals coming up this weekend, and I got my good friend here, Jake Brown, part of the Sick podcast. Mets Magic just came out. How you doing, my friend?
It's good to see you. It's good to be back in the Mets podcast sphere after I had about a month break doing a couple things on my own. But as you know, it is a hassle trying to edit on your own and post things on your own and trying to get help editing videos. So I'm glad I have someone to do it for me now. And looking forward to getting this going. And, the Mets have turned it around, which has been fun.
Yeah, the thing I like the least about podcasting is doing all the editing and making sure everything sounds right. It's a longer process than a lot of people make it out to seem, but glad that you're back out there, glad that you're doing it, and it's always a pleasure talking with you. We got 19 people in the room right now. File in. We got a lot to talk about today. We want your comments, we want your questions. And appreciate you all in the chat room. Matt Ibi Ibanez from Till Mets Do Us Park, Duran Rivera, Carlos Ortiz. Appreciate you all for stopping in. Make sure, like I said, leave your questions, comments. We'll be answering them. And let's start off. I always like to start off with a recap, and we're going to talk about that end of the Mets West Coast road trip. It wasn't as friendly as the start was, but the Giants won this series. Actually was the first series loss for the Mets since the second series of the season against the Detroit Tigers. Bats kind of went silent games 1 and game 2. Really terrible start for Quintana in game 1. He gave up 5 earned runs, walked 3. We'll be talking about walks a lot, I think, in this podcast, because that's all the Mets seem to do. That's all the pitchers seem to do, is walk a lot. Game 2, Sevy pitched well, but Brandon Webb pitched even better. 8 shutout innings. Like I said, the Mets bats were pretty much silent for the first 2 games of this series, and then they finally woke up in game 3, thanks to Francisco Lindor, thanks to Tyrone Taylor. Lindor going 4 for 5, had 2 home runs, had 4 RBIs, and scored 2 runs. Tyrone Taylor, 2 for 5 with a home run, 3 RBIs, and 2 runs. Every time they seem to put Tyrone Taylor in the lineup, he seems to work his magic. So got to see more of him, especially in this series. Would be nice to see. Reed Garrett still dealing. He had 4 strikeouts in 2 innings pitched. Otto quietly having a good season too. Adam Ottavino, 1.86 ERA. So the Mets end this West Coast trip 3-3. Now I'll say this. When I first went into talking about this West Coast road trip last week, I was okay with 3-3. And then I got a little disappointed the fact that they ended 3-3, considering that they started off taking the series from the Dodgers. So I got a little greedy and kind of wanted 4-2. But what were your thoughts on this Giants series, and any takeaways that maybe I missed, or something that really got to you during this series?
I'm actually fine with it. I think you go in and you were expecting to lose to the Dodgers, and instead you beat the Dodgers and lose to the Giants. So essentially they flip-flop what you think. And, San Francisco, I feel like, can be a house of horrors a lot of times for the Mets with the wind and the weather and the cold. So I think I'm fine with 3-3. Listen, this team went from 0-5 to now they're over 500. They have been able to stay afloat here and get JD Martinez, which we'll talk about, get him in the lineup, and he's here, and you're over 500. And I think you got to be thrilled with that as a Mets fan. So I was fine with this trip. Reed Garrett really has been impressive to me. This is a guy who's a fringe roster player. And now if you were to guess on April 25th who was tied for the most wins in baseball, and you said Reed Garrett, I would send you to a psychiatric home, because you could take 250 guesses and you never would have said Reed Garrett. So this beard of Zeus, the only thing me and him have in common is that we're bald and a beard. He's a dog out there, and he is one of these guys on this roster that if he contributes like this, he's not going to pitch a sub-1 ERA all year. But if he continues to pitch like that, that is an X factor on a bullpen that's already been good. But this was a guy who was expected to maybe be a long man. Now he's being propelled into 7th inning roles, 6th inning roles, big time spots, tie games, close games. And so far, you've been able to trust him. And with a bullpen and that's been overworked, that's had guys shifted in and out, that's had Michael Tonkin, who's now a Yankee, his third team in the span of like 10 days, a bullpen that's needed fresh arms, he's been able to give them some relief. And I think those kind of guys shouldn't get overlooked how important they are to the team.
I know we kind of call it I guess the Trevor Williams, Darren Oliver type role of that long man guy. And he's been coming in pitching 2 innings, except for that one game in LA where he closed out the game and struck out the side. But like you said, man, I mean, he's been outstanding, and you hope it lasts. But, the way the starting pitching is going, I'm going to get a little concerned. It's not as bad as it was last year where we were only getting 2-3 innings from our starters, but they need to go at least 6 innings. We've seen Jose Budo do it. We've seen Luis Severino do it a couple times. But, man, there needs to be more because, the more these guys walk batters, the more pitches they're throwing, especially behind some shoddy defense as well, has been costing them. But the starters really got to get their act together because I can't see the bullpen being this good for an entire season if they have to keep picking up the starting pitchers.
Yeah, and shout out to Matt in the chat. Bald is beautiful, and Yuki, no Dixie cup. Got to clean it. Got to get it washed. But I've been loving the Dixie cup outfit. But yeah, listen, I think these starters at some point when the weather warms up and the season goes on, they're going to push them. But right now, I think they're also seeing around the league all the injuries. Now Blake Snell, the recent guy to go down. In half of my fantasy team is on the IL. It's unbelievable. I don't have enough roster spots for all my guys who are hurt, but that's the league right now. It is a plague. It is a pandemic of injuries. So I think the Mets are kind of being a little safe, maybe a little bit too safe. At some point, like you said, they're going to have to go deeper. They're going to have to get to 108, 110 pitches. I know a lot of people threw a fit that they pulled Manaea. Listen, they won the game. It's not a big deal. Yeah, it would have been nice for him to get the win. He did look like he was a little bit gassed. He's a little bit tired. These guys haven't gone over 100 pitches. It's like 90 to 95 is now the new norm. But yeah, they're not going to be able to just DFA guys and sign new guys and bring new guys up on a weekly occasion. They just don't have the depth. That is where this organization lacks. It is pitching depth, especially in the bullpen. You might see an Nate Lavender at some point. You might see one of these other guys.
Even he's hurt now. He's on the IL.
And he's out. So everyone's hurt, and if you think they're coming, they might get hurt in a day or two. So at some point, yeah, they're going to have to go 6 or 7. But that's why I emphasize Garrett's role of being able to go 2 innings where, hey, maybe you give Jorge Lopez a day because Reed will give you an extra inning. So I hope they can. But I got to say, I'm impressed with Luis Severino because he started off rocky and he starts some games rocky, but he's been able to come back from those rocky starts, whether it's beginning of the year or it's physically the beginning of the game where he calms down and gets it together and only ends up giving 2 or 3 runs up. So we still need to see that consistency, but so far Severino's got a sub-3 ERA. And, it took a stat correction a little bit for that ERA in the beginning of the year to go from like 8 to 5, which definitely helped his numbers. But I liked what I've seen out of him. I liked what I've seen out of Manaea. Obviously, Jose Budo, who will pitch this weekend, has just been almost unhittable. 8 starts out of 10. He's given up 2 or less runs. It's remarkable in the last 2 seasons. So he has been a godsend for this team. But yeah, let's see a guy like touch the 7th inning. The 6th inning is the new 7th inning in the big leagues this year.
It is. It really is. And I don't know if it's just because it's the Mets that we haven't seen guys go 6 or 7. I don't know how it's going on other teams, but you have to wonder at some point, you think they changed the rules with, wins and losses for, starting pitchers that maybe have a really good 4 innings, but have to get taken out. And, they put in a guy like Reed Garrett, who's getting all these wins. He's like, I think he's tied with Tyler Glass now for 4 wins.
Mm-hmm. No, 4 innings is a slap in the face. You have the old timers. You have Tom Seaver rolling in his grave at us saying 4 innings is a win. I think 5 is already nice enough. I get it's a new era, but listen, that stat's not even that important anymore. Like you could have a 10-win pitcher and they could be one of the best pitchers in baseball. The win is different. The ERA is different now. It's a whip. Like stats are all changing, but do not change it from 5 to 4. I think we're already babying these guys a little bit and let's keep it at 5.
No, I definitely agree that they are being babied, but I don't know what there is to fix this issue because it goes all the way down to little league with the starting pitchers and throwing with max velocity and throwing as hard as possible that,
That's
these
the
guys.
issue. Stop.
Yeah.
Everyone's throwing too hard. Like d- Al Leiter was on the show today with Joel Sherman and John Heyman, and he made an interesting point that it's going to make people say, no, don't even think this. But he said, get rid of the radar gun. These pitchers on every pitch are looking at how fast they're throwing. And if they're hitting 94, they're like, wait, how is that not 96? Let me throw harder. I'm curious if they already added in City Field these stats. I don't even know what they are next to the speedometer on those little scoreboards. These things I've never even heard of, and we watch game
Yeah.
every day. So that is bizarre, that stat. But I would be very interested if they did get rid of the radar gun and see the difference it makes. But I think these coaches have to coach this too. They have to say, because it's almost like the scouting, these analytics departments are telling them, hey, throw fast and worry about getting through 5 innings, instead of saying, worry about the longevity, get some more off-speed stuff in there. Don't worry about hitting 97. So Al Leiter does make an intriguing point. What do you think about that? Do you think stadiums or, however they do it should get rid of the radar gun?
It is an interesting point. I would not be opposed to it. I did see that on the board where they're logging every pitch and how fast that pitch is coming in as a part of the new, version of the scoreboard. I also wonder, like, in the offseason, when some of these big pitchers become free agent, like the pitchers are getting more money than position players. Like at some point, are the owners going to be like, you know what, we got to stop with the pitchers and putting the most money down on these guys? Look at Blake Snell, didn't get what he wanted. Jordan Montgomery didn't get what he wanted. And it seemed to have hurt them, moving forward. I wonder if that's something that the owners lock in on when it comes to getting these, starting pitchers. Like, look at how the Mets have built this rotation through guys that are on 1-year deals, maybe 2, that are reclamation projects, and all while allowing the farm system to build guys like Christian Scott and Dominic Hamill, and seeing if they can be something moving forward as starters in this rotation. So we'll see what happens with the starting pitching and how it directly affects the bullpen with this Mets team going forward. But so far, so good. No complaints here, right? Team's 13-11, 2 games over 500 after a horrific start to the season. Carlos Mendoza has turned this team around and has got them on their winning ways. A big part of what had happened this weekend and throughout the whole West Coast trip was 2 batters, I think, very importantly. One being Francisco Lindor. He was a big part of the 3 wins that they had. 3 home runs, most importantly, 3 home runs from the left-handed side, which is very important. I hope this is the turnaround that he's needed. We'll see if it happens, but how are your thoughts on what Francisco Lindor has been able to do over the last, I want to say, 6 days, as kind of now he's batting over 200 again. So I can't believe I'm excited for that, but it's nice to see him, get his batting average up a little bit.
Listen, we are 24 games into the season, if I'm doing my math correctly. This is a guy who's going to play 161, maybe all 160. We'll say he's played 160. Let's say he gets 2 days off. He's banged up. He's got 125 plus games still ahead of him. And for the naysayers, it's time to just shut up and let him rip, because since those DMs went to his wife and people, death threats and the messages to him, and everyone backing him in the clubhouse, he's been incredible. He's been back to Francisco Lindor and giving you production, giving you defense, being a team player, rooting guys on. And I get it. The guy's got a monster contract. He's got to perform, and he's got to be more than just the guy that answers questions after the game. He just has to be more than that.
Yeah.
But for people, someone with the thug tweed, and that is someone who's trying to get traction, I'm sure. But that with the DMs, with the booing, I mean, it is April 25th, and it's not like he's hitting 0. He's hitting homers. He's driving in runs. He's doing things that need to be done. He's good on defense. Minor thing that I do love is that when a ball's in the outfield, he will get down and get out of the way. Like he stop, drops, and rolls like there's a fire. And I don't think it could get overlooked because and we've seen some serious injuries with the Mets where an infielder's collide into an outfielder or two outfielders. Mike Cameron, Carlos Beltran, they know a thing or two about that. We've had nightmares over that. So I don't think something like that could get overlooked in the field, avoiding injuries. He stays healthy. So talk to me on like July 1st. And if he's hitting 200 on July 1st, then we'll say something. Because listen, Pete Alonso hit like 215, 220 last year. What was Pete Alonso's final average last year? Give me the exact number because it wasn't good. Yet everyone clamored for them. I know he had all the homers and RBIs, but his average stunk. And everyone clamored for the Mets to extend him in the offseason. Well, his average was atrocious. So if you want to come at Lindor, go at Alonso for not having a good average.
It has to go all the way around. I think he hit 217.
217. That's terrible. Like when it's all said and done, Lindor's going to get to 260, 270. And if he's at 215, 15, and 60 at the end of the year, fine. Boo him, get mad. But right now, it's not time for that.
Yeah, and if you look across town, the captain's not heading pretty well either in the Bronx.
He's on the interstate, right? What's he's under 200, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been struggling all season long. Even he's getting the boo birds.
Yep. Yeah, on his own bobblehead day. How do you boo a guy on his bobblehead day? That's like booing someone getting married on their wedding. You can't boo someone on their bobblehead day. They get it once in their life. You don't see Pete Alonso bobblehead day every year. It's usually a one time, maybe twice. Maybe they do like a Star Wars version or something. But you get one bobblehead day. And if you're booing on a bobblehead day, maybe they're booing the fact that they didn't get it because it's like first 10,000. You had to get there 3 hours early. If you're booing that, fine. But don't boo a guy on his bobblehead day.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's way too early in the season. I'm surprised that Met fans have gotten so frustrated. It's not everyone, but they have gotten so frustrated to the start of the season where, you know what, we really didn't have expectations coming in here to begin with. There was really no expectations for this team. Maybe they would have been competitive. Maybe they wouldn't have been, but and obviously the 0-5 start didn't help. But as you remember, you brought up Mike Cameron and Carlos Beltran. That year, that 2005 team started off 0-5 and then turned it around. So, at least Carlos Mendoza has been keeping them focused, has been keeping them ready. And he's kind of has this, formula with all the players and, interchanging everybody, whether it's in the bullpen, in the lineup. Everything that I've seen from Carlos Mendoza so far, I've kind of been impressed with. I don't know how you feel about him and his managing so far, but I've been impressed so far from what I've seen.
Yeah, I don't think he's done anything terrible. Like hasn't done anything that, made me tweet a rampage like I had to do with Terry Collins and Mickey Callaway and definitely Luis Rojas. He hasn't done anything mind-blowing. The Diaz pulling in the 8th, I kind of get because he was at 20 pitches. So I'm not going to lose a ton of sleep over that. I believe that was one of the Dodger games where he put Diaz in the 8th, then pulled him. I get it. A tough part of the order.
I thought that was the right move, honestly.
Yeah. You don't want to overuse Diaz, especially coming off the injury in April. So I was fine with that. Yeah, he's been fine. I'd like to see a little more fire from him. I think that's the only thing. I mean, it's tough because it's April. It's hard to really show fire. I'd like to see a point where he does come out and yell because there's been times he's come out there and has almost looked lost, like he doesn't really know why he went out there. So that's something he'll learn. But, I've said it over and over. I think having a right-hand man like Gibbons next to him is so huge for a rookie manager like that because we're not always going to see it on camera on SNY. But Gibbons is in his ear telling him things. And I don't think that could be overlooked, having a bench coach who has had success in the big leagues. Not that he's had a ton of success, but he's been to the playoffs several times before. He's a pretty decent manager. And now you have him on your side. So I think that is very important. But yeah, Mendoza's been fine for me. But again, I'd like to see when the games start getting rolling here and get tighter. And there's a call that is inexcusable. I don't know. He's not the kind of guy who's going to go Lou Piniella and throw a base. But I'd like to see him go in an umpire's face and start yelling.
I don't remember how Aaron Boone started, if he started off as a more quiet, reserved guy, because as of late, he's been, he's been the ire of a lot of umpires, especially getting thrown out. Was it a couple days ago in a game that he didn't even say a word. So
Well, he said a word before, and that's what gave him the warning. So that's what led to him. And I'm sure the stories are out there. I'm curious about the fan, but I don't know how you mix up the voices of Aaron Boone and then an older guy that was sitting above him. But I guess the umpires, they're in
he
the
probably
zone.
had a trigger finger.
Yeah. But how funny was that? I mean, that was
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, Douglas Barnes brings up a good point. Mendoza hasn't been the story, so he's doing exactly what he should be so
That's
far.
exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, I haven't had to think about it much, which is a good thing. It's almost like if you're not saying anything about the officials, they're doing a good job. So yeah, that's a good point, Doug, that he hasn't done anything massively wrong, but he also hasn't like pushed a button. I'm like, wow, that's just won the Mets the game. But at some point, there's going to be those games he pushes the right button that does win them the games, and it gets intriguing with JD Martinez what he does with the lineup because DJ Stewart is basically lost a spot and then he got it back with the run that he's been on. How does he fit DJ in there? How does he pinch hit late in games for a Narvaez or a Nito? How does he work the bottom of the lineup? And when he needs to pinch hit, now the tough gets going. Now that he's got his big bopper, how will he use those bench players that shouldn't really be starting? And when they do start, how does he use, a DJ Stewart in a pinch hit role? How does he use, Joey Wendell in a defensive role? That's going to be something to watch here moving forward.
Yeah, I thought that DJ Stewart, right after the first week and a half, would have been the one to get sent down. But ever since that Braves series, he has, pretty much kept his spot in this lineup. I would assume that it would be Zach Short will be the guy to get sent away. And I know that Mendoza at the beginning of the season had talked about batting JD Martinez fourth, but now that has moved to fifth. And the reason why that is because of this guy that I want to talk about next. And that's Starling Marte, who's kind of earned his spot right back at number 2. It's like we've got the old Starling, a little bit older, a little bit slower in the outfield, but the offense seems to be back to 2022 Starling Marte.
He was such a critical part of the success of that 2022 team. You can't overstate how important Marte was to that team winning over the 100 game. What are they? 101 wins.
Yeah.
In 2022, he was massive from stealing bases to his defense. Now his defense has gotten a little bit worse, but he's still got that cannon in right field. And I think that arm and his bat and his speed, I'd like to see him steal a little bit more. He's got 6, which is fine. That's still on pace for a good year. But, when he's on his game, he could be a 40 stolen base guy. And I love seeing him hit because I think coming into the spring, people were looking at him and they saw like a gut and they see his Instagram stories and he's out smoking hookah or he's out with his girl at a party. The guy likes to live. Listen, when you look that good, I'd be living that good too, like Starling Marte. The man has abs of steel. The ladies love him. He's got to live his life. So I think a lot of fans came in like, oh no, he's hurt, but he's out partying. It looks like he's got a bigger gut. Well, any of the naysayers, there's the Lindor naysayers, the Marte naysayers, the Marte naysayers are being shut up. And I think the lineup is so much better with that because he's got to stay in that 2 role. I argued that maybe he's leadoff. I don't think they're ever going to move Nimmo from leadoff. So I think Marte is just going to stay in that 2 spot. But man, when he's on his game, him in that 2 spot, hitting the way he does, stealing bases like he does, this Mets lineup is just so much more dynamic. And you saw it with an offense without JD. Now add JD, and it's going to be tough to really pitch around anyone from 1 to 5 in the lineup.
In spring training, it didn't look like we were getting Starling back. And I know that David Stearns had visited him down. I think it was in the Dominican League when he was coming back, and he said, "Oh, he looks good." Mendy says, "Oh, he looks good. He looks like he's ready to go. He's ready to play." And we were like, "Really?" Because I'm not seeing much of this during spring training, but he's ramped up and he's playing so well. Very offensively playing well. Defense, okay. And I think it does help that Harrison Bader's out there in center field because Harrison Bader can, snag balls in left field, right field. He could do it all. So to see him help out there and not make the range for Marte be as much as it used to be, I think is a good sign.
And this is why spring I don't like the games, because he is like the prototypical kind of player that you shouldn't judge a spring, because he's not trying. Like, he does not care about spring games. And Matt's right. The amount of grinding you see on that guy's stories, it's no shocker he had double groin surgery. That man, he's got discount cards for starlets, for mermaids, he's all the places. So shout out to Starling Marte, because that man parties and he grinds on the field and off it, apparently. But yeah, he's an electric player, and enjoy it this year, because he's 35 years old, so he's not getting any younger, and we'll see what he is moving forward. But this is what, year 3, so he's only got one more year of his contract anyway. But if he continues like this, and 2 out of 3 years you're getting elite Starling Marte, you're in love with the contract they got him for. Because what was it, like 4 years, 680, 4 years, 80? I gotta look
Yeah.
at the exact number, but with today's day, 4 years, 78. So, not saying that's a deal, but in today's day and age, if he puts up the numbers he did, like 2022, that's not a bad contract at all for Marte.
No, not at all. And let's hope that it can continue, especially this year, because if he's playing well this year into next year, and he makes himself trade bait worthy, let's say in the future. I mean, that might be helpful for the Mets down the line. But we hope he continues to play well, as this team needs him very much. We haven't seen as much from Lindor. Not being talked about a lot either is Brandon Nimmo. He's been kind of quiet this season, outside of that big 2-homer game against Atlanta. But before we get into the series preview against St. Louis, I want to get into one more player, because Duran Rivera makes this point. Is it true the Mets interested in Alfaro, the former Marlins and Phillies catcher? I haven't heard anything about that. I think that the Mets are going to stick with Narvaez and Nido, especially since they are paying them as much money for a backup catcher as they are. And with the fact that JD Martinez is coming back, he kind of adds the bat that is missing with Francisco Alvarez, who's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. We saw with the torn ligament in his thumb. He just had surgery. So, we'll see what happens. What are your thoughts on, I guess, this catching tandem and how they should be played? I know Mendy said that he's going to play both of them. I kind of prefer Tomas Nido over Omar Narvaez, just because, man, I don't like the way Narvaez frames. I mean, we're so spoiled with how great Francisco Alvarez was framing and how he was stealing strikes. And I don't see that with Narvaez. I don't know if I see any, I don't want to say if there's no effort, but like from what I'm watching with my eyes, I just don't see it with Narvaez.
Neither do I, but I do think Narvaez is undeniably the better hitter, and
That's for sure.
It's not night and day. To me, I'd prefer the bat, but Nita's still going to play, so I think they're just going to split it 5-2 is probably what they're going to do. Nita's still going to play twice a week. I'm fine with Narvaez 5 times a week. When they got Narvaez, we all thought, at least I did, that it was a terrific signing.
Me too.
He was coming off a great year. He's got pop. When his bat is on, he's one of the better, you can argue, one of the better backup catchers in the sport, at least offensively. Now, yes, his defense leaves a lot to be desired. Now, the Mets didn't really plan for this, so they don't really have the depth for it. In the minors, the next closest guy would be Austin Allen, who has had really no big league experience. So they don't have that other veteran. So I do think Alfaro would make a whole lot of sense. You have Narvaez and Alfaro. I don't think they clearly are not, worried about loyalty to Nido, because David Stearns, if a guy stinks a couple of days, at least on the pitching side, he's been DFAing them. He's not worried about making moves with the roster. So if Alfaro is available and they find him to be better than Nido, get it done. But one thing I do love about Nido, if you listen to my shows, I love a good bunt. And Tomas Nido is the king of the sack bunt. So if he could come in there and move a Bader over or move a Beatty over, whoever's 7th or 8th, and get a bunt down and catch a good game, you're all right in my book. So it's fine for now. Alvarez will be back. My guess would be July 1st would be the earliest after rehab and everything. But that's a little bit generous. I would be fine with signing Alfaro or another veteran as well.
Yeah, maybe Nito can teach Beatty and the rest of these guys who have kind of lost touch with what bunting is. Teach them how to bunt. I don't understand why this team doesn't bunt and sacrifice people over.
You're preaching to the choir. I was one of the few people that I guess didn't mind that game. What was it, against the Tigers where Beatty did was it Beatty who tried to
Yeah.
bunt? Because get it down. I mean, it's
Mhm.
not rocket science getting down a bunt. It's almost like they don't work on it enough in spring training. You got 6 weeks of almost of spring training. They should be doing bunting drills at least 4 to 5 times a week. Like these guys have to be able to get it down. I get he was hot. I get you don't want to bunt with a guy that's hot. But man, lay a bunt down. I'd like to see that more. But what we did see in this turnaround and is complimentary baseball. We did see some bunts. We had that game where they had, for the first time in 10 years, 2 bunts in one inning. They had back-to-back
Yeah.
bunts, which was baseball porn, all of them, at least to me. I love 2 bunts in an inning. I love a bunt in general, but give me two. It's a beauty. Marte's the bunter as well. So I love it. But yeah, let's they did walk. They got hit by pitch. They played small ball. I think small ball is the key to this lineup winning. You can't just swing for the fences.
I feel like McNeil too. He could be a good suicide squeeze bunter if if
He's
he's
he's a
focused.
good singles bunter too. I'd like to see him, once a week lay down those. He's good at those swinging drag bunts. And if you have a first baseman in, playing deep, it's an automatic single. So I'd like to see McNeil try that more often.
You know who I wish they had kept at catcher? Michael Perez, man. He
Yeah.
seems to have come up big every time they put him in that lineup. I don't know why they let him go, but I really did enjoy him at catcher being a backup with when Francisco Alvarez was in the lineup and Narvaez was out.
Yeah, but some of these veterans, they're hard to come by. They get a better opportunity elsewhere. There's going to be guys out there like Alfaro's one, and I'm sure there's others. If the Mets are in dire straits, I just don't think right at this moment it's a major issue. But we'll see in the next few weeks. This is going to be a long stretch without Alvarez, 2 whole months without your
Yeah.
franchise catcher. And it really makes you appreciate how big he was, not only as a bopper, but behind the plate, because you're seeing the major downfall. But at least Nito, he could still throw guys out. He could still frame pretty well. And Narvaez, you live with his mistakes. If he could give you, an RBI double. Well, he had a game a couple weeks ago. He had a crazy RBI double. We're like, oh my God, Omar Narvaez. Remember, this guy, like I said, he hit before he came here with the Brewers. He's a solid hitter. So Omar Narvaez isn't some bum backup. But yeah, I agree. Michael Perez would have been nice to have here too.
We'll definitely see too that how the walks, I guess, if they get higher or if they go down with both of these guys in the backstop. Because, like I said, man, Francisco Alvarez would just steal some strikes sometimes, and it was just a thing of beauty to see with him. Shout out to CP. NY Sports in the chat as well. Shout out to 103 people in the room right now. Appreciate you all here. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to Subway to Shea. Make sure you subscribe to Jake Brown Radio as well on YouTube, as well as the Sick Podcast Mets Magic, his new podcast out now. Make sure you guys are subscribing to all of these pages. So let's get into the series preview against the St. Louis Cardinals. I have the pitching probables right here, and there they are. Sean Manaea. Actually, wait a minute. Why does that always come up messed up like that? I don't know why for me that this comes up. This is the second time that that's happened. So the Mets pitching is not correct at this moment, but the bottom is. So I'm going to go off of, I guess, the Mets website right now and get this correctly. But Miles Mikolas is going up in game one against Jose Butto.
Budo Friday, and then Hauser Saturday, Quintana Sunday.
Yeah. Out of those 3 games, which pitching matchup are you looking forward to the most?
I am looking forward to seeing Jose Butto Friday because one, it's Jose Butto has been amazing, and also JD Martinez debut. I think that is fantastic. It's a Friday night. I think that's a good matchup. Mikolas has given some of the Mets some problems. Pete Alonso and Brandon Nimmo have not been good against him. Lindor has been. Marte has not been good against him. He's hit under 200. So some of the Mets have struggled against him. But I think to start this weekend off for a team that's been struggling a little bit attendance-wise, and part of that is because of the inconsistent weather. It's been all over the place. Cold, warm. Monday, it's going to be 80 degrees. Wiener night, dollar wiener night Tuesday. I'm not a big
Yeah.
hot dog guy, but I think I'm going to make my way there, and I'm going to talk to Max Wiener, Rally Pimp, while I'm there. Wiener,
Oh, he's got to be there, right? Like,
he told me he's told me he's going Wiener night. Yeah.
can we get Seymour Wiener out there too?
I
mean,
would
they put
hope
him on
he's
the
there. You
promo.
put him on the promo. Yeah. Like you better be cutting that guy a check or at least giving him some retirement money. My goodness. Give him a discount to your local Walgreens or something. Get him some prescription medication at a discount because you're using that incredible name, which I didn't know, but Figgy told me on Mets Magic today that it's from some old TV show that I completely forgot the name of. Seymour Wiener was a character. If you know, let us know in the chat where Seymour Wiener, if you don't know, Ant originated. But that's going to be fun. But yeah, Friday's a good one. And Jose Quintana's got a rebound because Jose Quintana was your opening day starter, and you're still without Senga at least for another month, maybe 6 weeks. He's got to show you something because Adrian Hauser has not. And Hauser, again, I think those guys need to have bounce back performances because a 70 ERA for Hauser ain't going to cut it. And Quintana is supposed to be a walking quality start. So he's got to give you 6 innings, 2 or 3 runs. And Hauser's got to do something to give you some kind of confidence because he has had a rough start as a Met.
Yeah, I looked at Carlos Quintana, Jose Quintana's stats so far with the Mets spanning back to his first start last year, and there's only 3 starts where he's given up 5 runs, not more. Like he's only given up, that's the most he's given up. Every other game, it's been 3, 2. So he's been pretty much a quality pitcher, and this is one of his worst starts in San Francisco. So yeah, definitely want to see a bounce back from him. I would say that the Saturday game I would look forward to the most because I'm going to that game. Obviously, I want to see the City Connect stuff get out there. But man, Adrian Hauser, man, that guy has been.
Well, thank God Tyrone Taylor's been good. That trade looks good for the sake of Tyrone Taylor, but Hauser's got to get it together.
He does. He does have to get it together. And I vouched for him at the beginning of the season. I was like, oh man, this guy's going to be like Rick Reed. He's going to be a staple at the back of the rotation. And he has just 7.45 ERA. He's been getting lit up. I don't know if it's just that he's been bad or he's also, got into some bad luck because he's had to face the Braves and they lit him up. He's faced the Dodgers and they lit him up. So outside of that, he pitched okay against Pittsburgh. And I think he pitched in Cincinnati, if I'm for certain, or was it Detroit?
So he's had 2 good starts, 2 rough starts. The 8 runs has inflated his ERA, so I can't rip him too much because he's had a 1-run start and a 2-run start. But the 5 and 8 run starts, it can't be 1, 5, 2, 8, 3, 8. It's got to be a couple starts in there where he, it's 5 or 6 innings, 2 runs. He also has only gotten into the 6th inning 1 time, so got to give him length. And got to give him consistency. 4 starts is too small sample size for me to be like, cut him. But, by Memorial Day, I hope he finds some consistency over the next 4.
Yeah, Ibby brings up, I think this is for Hauser as well. 14 walks on 19 innings pitch. I mean, you just can't be doing that. But like I said, you face the Dodgers lineup, you're facing the Braves lineup. That's a tough go against for any pitcher, but especially for Hauser who struggled. But like you, I think Budo Mikolas is the pitching matchup of the weekend. I want to see Budo. It sucks to say bounce back because I thought he did an admirable job against the Dodgers in that lineup, only going 4 innings, but I thought he did okay for what it was worth. I think he pitched the best out of the weekend of the starting pitchers. And, he's got a 1.65 ERA right now. And to see him bounce back against this Cardinals lineup, and he's been really the only pitcher to go 6 innings for us. So, see him get going. And like you said, get this homestand started. You got JD Martinez coming back. You got City Connect this weekend. You got Wiener night. I mean, let's get this team rolling.
Friday, you will see more Budo. Tuesday, you will see more Wiener. I mean, the jokes just absolutely write themselves out on this 7-game homestand for the Mets. The City Connects jerseys are cool. Here's my issues. And listen, I don't care that much. I'm not one of these people who's like, F the City Connects. Like, I'm not going to lose sleep. I might just not buy one. I do think the hat is fire. I love the city skyline of the hat. I'm probably at some point going to get the hat. Is that the fitted hat? You just bent the
No, it's the dad hat. It's got the strap in it. I can't do fitteds anymore. I just can't. I don't like the feel of it on my head. I'm very much into the already, built-in build right there. I will say this. I got a bomber jacket as well. My
The
jersey
bomber
didn't come
jacket
in.
looks sick too. I will
It's
say that.
nice, man. It
Yeah.
really is nice. Nice and comfortable, snug. Oh, man. Good
I
for the
need to
cold
find
weather.
that on like the DH Gate site, the cheaper site,
Yeah.
the JD Martinez Gate site. Like I need one of those. The jersey, it's a little pricey, but I wish it had a little bit more purple because I like the gray purple mix, but it's barely in there. And as a Queens guy, I've been in Astoria for 10 years. I lived in Little Neck, the Queens half, not the Long Island half. You go a mile away, Long Island, but I was on the Queens side. I've been in Queens 17 years. I love Queens, my favorite borough. I go to 50 Met games a year. I'd like it to say Queens. I know this team represents all New York City, and the people outside of Queens are going to say no, no, NYC better. But I think it would be cool to have that Queens representation. But Figgy made a good point that that's probably part two. They're always trying to find the new jersey, the new gear, and there'll probably be another version of this at some point that says Queens. But those were my only two riffs. But I do think it's a fairly clean look.
I don't know if you read Will Salmon's article for The Athletic. Him and I think Tim Britton were kind of like breaking down the whole process. There was like 30 different designs. Like I'd actually like to go see what the rest of the designs that were brought to the table from Nike and I guess it's Fanatics for what this jersey was supposed to look like. And there were a couple that said Queens on it. They ended up going with NYC. But they did say, I think this is for a 3-year span, and there is possibility for them to change it up if they want to. So we may see some kind of alternate version of this jersey.
Yeah, I think Queens would be the alternate. Can't really exclude the 4 other NYC borough fans. I mean, it could exclude Staten Island. I'm sorry. Just that still bothers me that Staten Island is a borough. I'm sorry if you're from there, you live there, but yeah, I get it. But I think that's coming next. I like to see some different color variations, but it's cool. But I'm not going to drop the $250 or whatever it is to buy one.
I just got a plain one. I don't need the names on it. I only buy Legends names. Like I'll get a Piazza jersey. I'll get a Wright jersey. I got the 86 guys. I don't get any players that are of this day. Maybe a Scherzer or something like that, but I never do player jerseys from current rosters. Yuki Matsui talking about a blast from the past, the Mercury Mets jersey. If you're going to the game, I don't know what game it is. It's against the Braves on a Saturday. They are doing a Mercury Mets jersey giveaway with the Mike Piazza on the back. So
Really?
yes, I can't remember what Saturday it is. It's not. Is it May 23rd? I don't know if it's in May or June, but they are doing a Mercury Mets jersey giveaway, Mike Piazza version.
Yeah, I need to go to that. I think it's July 27th.
It might be that one, yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, that looks like I'm gonna we're gonna have to get there early for that. Yeah, that is here's the issue, and I've said this before: fat shaming. Stop with the large giveaways. Most of us are not skinny enough to fit in a large. Now, the rugby shirt giveaway, I fit in it, but my titties are a little tight in there. I'm sorry. They're a little tight in that large giveaway. Everyone fits in an XL. A child, it's fine. They'll fit. I know you're catering to the kids, but with the food you serve at that ballpark, which is fantastic and voted #1 in baseball, and I've ate all of it, and clearly I have because I got a gut, you got to cater to the fans and give us that extra large, and come on.
They used to do, I feel like they used to do extra large
They did.
shirts, and then they just switched to just plain large.
I think like a couple of years ago. I don't remember what year they did because the Garden, I got the Rangers shirt of the giveaway at the game the other day, and it was an extra large. So the Rangers know, like, we're fat, we're Americans, we're fat, we eat. Like, it's not, you're not serving salad at the ballpark. You're serving egg rolls with whatever's with dessert in it, and double bacon burgers, butcher box, and Korean fried chicken. No one is skinny and boozy buckets and City Connect. Don't. The food is too much.
They did get rid of the chicken sandwich with the donut, which I really
They
thoroughly
did.
liked.
I was looking. My brother said, "Where's Jacob's Pickles?" Like, I'm like, I think it's here. It's here. Walked around the whole stadium. I guess, did it not do well enough, or did too many people get diabetes from eating?
I don't know. I think they just were like, we're just switching it up this year. Every year we'll probably switch it up and do something different. I mean, they had a porchetta sandwich that I freaking loved, and then they got rid of that one as well. Anything that I liked, they got rid of.
I think I start the season as a large and end the season as a double XL. I think that's the problem. The Dixie Cup fit I got was 4XL Asian size, which converted to XL American, but that conversion wasn't successful because it is still big on me, and I look like I'm wearing one of those '90s NBA jerseys that are 4 sizes too big.
How about the hockey jersey? I have one of those too. That one seems to fit me fine. I don't know what the size is on that. That's extra large, right?
It's large. No, it's
Large?
large. Yeah, it's a large because it does fit me though, but hockey's different. Here's the proof: made in China, large.
Yeah. And
So,
I made sure to get the tickets for that game as well. I think they're doing a different one. This it's going to be written out differently. I don't know. It's white, I think, or gray, changing the jersey up. Shout out Patty, who said Saturday, July 27th for the Mercury jersey as well. A couple of players to watch here for this series. One, Jeff McNeil against Miles Mikolas. 571 batting average, 2 RBIs, 1.386 OPS in 14 at bats. Jeff McNeil's been kind of skating around. He hasn't been doing great. He hasn't been doing awful like the start of the season. So I definitely want to see Jeff McNeil be a little more consistent than what we've seen from him, because it's boom or bust. It feels like every other season with Jeff. So you're either getting the, over 300 batting title Jeff, or you're just getting a 250, struggling guy. And I want to stay away from that version of Jeff McNeil.
yeah, and it's interesting where we assume the everyday lineup until Alvarez is Nimmo, Marte, Lindor, Alonso, JD, and then is it McNeil 6? Is it Beatty 6? Where do you go at 6?
I think it's Beatty. I think until Beatty struggles, he keeps that spot. He's earned that spot in the lineup, and Jeff really hasn't. So, I put him lower in the lineup. Unfortunately for him, with JD Martinez coming up, it doesn't help either. But he's got to do much better than the way he's batting if he wants to get more RBI opportunities, if he wants to get higher in the lineup. He had a decent game yesterday, but man, he's got to be a lot better. Like when you're not a home run hitter, you need to be batting over 300.
Yeah, but it's early, and I think 269 is fine. And now I'm telling you, JD is going to add such a different dimension, because it's just going to make everyone around him better. And I agree with Doug, who comments, I'd like to see Nimmo get a day off. Lindor can bat leadoff. JD will be here, and Tyrone Taylor needs some more playing time. Nimmo needs to get his head right. He's hitting under 200. We're all talking about Lindor struggles. I know Brandon Nimmo's got a lot of RBIs for a leadoff hitter, and I know his OBP is like 150 points higher, but give him a day or two to get his mind right, because this is unacceptable from Brandon Nimmo. This is a guy who's supposed to be hitting 290 and have a 380 OBP. Enough of, he walks a lot being the reason for him being a leadoff hitter. Who cares? Like, you walk a lot, you don't steal any bases.
That's the problem.
I don't care if you walk a lot. I don't know about Lindor in the leadoff spot. I'd like to see Marte there. I could live with Lindor there, but Lindor is a guy who drives guys in. I'd like to see that. And yeah, he's right. Tyrone Taylor deserves more playing time and is a good defensive player as well. So, and the way Bader's hitting, you can't really keep him out of the lineup too often. He's got to be in there 4 or 5 times a week, and that's another added bonus. But yeah, I agree. I don't think anytime you face a lefty, I honestly would not play Nimmo. I think he needs to have more days off. Give Tyrone Taylor should be in there, and Harrison Bader should be in there every time against a lefty. And now we're going to find out, like you said, with JD here, there's some more room for mixing and matching. And if Brandon Nimmo doesn't hit, I'm perfectly fine with him not being in the lineup against the left-hand pitcher.
Yeah, I've talked a lot about Starling Marte getting in that leadoff role, specifically because he steals bases, man. I mean, like you said, on base percentage, all great and well, but you're not stealing any bases, man. And anytime he does try to steal a base, he gets hurt. So it's like, maybe if he moves down lower in the lineup, you sandwich him in between. I don't know. I guess maybe you could do it in between Alonso and JD. I mean,
Bader leadoff could be intriguing because he's a guy who can lay down a bunt. He does steal bases. He probably doesn't get on enough, but I wouldn't hate against a left-hand pitcher once seeing Bader. You're not going to put Taylor there. It's really either Bader or Marte if Nimmo's not playing. But these are all things that are happen like once a month. So we're
Yeah.
probably wasting too much time talking about it.
Yeah, Douglas Barnes does mention Tyrone Taylor. He's not a part of my players to watch right now, but I'm looking over the stats for him, and he's had pretty good at bats. So I would not be shocked if he plays most of this weekend. I mean, against all three starters, he has a decent, sized amount of at bats and has played well against them. And so is Starling Marte, who we'll get into. But Douglas Barnes did bring up Francisco Lindor. So Francisco Lindor on Saturday against Sonny Gray. He's got a 250 batting average, but 2 home runs, 3 RBIs, 883 OPS in 20 at bats. That's enough to me to tell me that we might see a little bit of fireworks from Francisco Lindor. Another guy will go to. Oh, go ahead.
And Lindor is also in 364 against Mikolas, so he's had even more success against him. So keep cheering him. Keep giving. You don't have to stand every time you did that. You don't need to do it every game. I get it, but no booze. Give him a nice cheer when he comes to the plate because it makes a difference. He said it after the game. He talked about it. These guys are human beings. They have emotions. This isn't, the problem is with betting and everything. People, it's like, oh, he didn't give me those 2 bases. He didn't give me that RBI I needed. He didn't give me that hit that I needed. And they treat them like they're not human. These guys have feelings, and I get it. They're making $30 million a year. Believe me, it makes sense. But that doesn't mean they have no feelings whatsoever because they wipe their butts with $100 bills. They still have some emotions. So let's treat these guys like human beings. And I'm curious to watch Lindor this weekend. And on the left side, he hit the 2 homers. He's starting to get some success on the left side, but I love to see some consistency because listen, the Mets face a whole lot more right-hand pitchers than lefties. That's just the way it is. And he's got to be able to hit from the left side if he wants to get this average from 200 to 250.
I don't know if you were at any of the games during last homestand, but I thought the fans did a really good job of, not only pumping up Lindor, but pumping up the whole team. It wasn't a big crowd, especially during Doc Gooden Day, but the Met fans who were there really showed out, and I think it carried over into that Dodgers series.
If this team plays well and they play with the heart and the grit and the comeback that they've been playing, fans will eventually show up. Like, the weather has also been terrible. Like, once the weather is consistently 60, 70 degrees and it's not brick at night, people will show up. Just keep doing dollar wiener nights. That'll help. As funny as it is and a joke as it is, the Mets never do this. They never, like on a weekly homestand or weekly occasion, do some kind of discount. They do, oh, here's 10% off your season ticket holder. With what they've done to the pricing on so much food, with what they've done to season ticket holders, which I always think is a robbery. I'm a very get a ticket last minute guy. People assume I have season tickets. No, I would never invest in season tickets because you're losing thousands of dollars because you're not making your money back when you sell them. With what the Mets have doing, in some ways they've outpriced, they've corporate, and I get that. Like, if you don't have any connections for food or drink, it's an expensive trip to the ballpark. Doing little things like this, you can have the internet laugh at you, but I guarantee you it's going to be a bigger crowd now Tuesday. Because when I talk to people who are like, oh man, or people who don't go to games that much, they're like, I'm dying for a hot dog and a beer. And I laugh because I never get a hot dog at the game. You see what I eat. I'm eating bougie food. I get it. The normal fan does like a hot dog, and I respect that. I like a hot dog with ketchup. Sorry, don't at me. But little things like that will bring people to the ballpark. So keep getting creative. Next homestand, make it dollar soda night. I'll have a Diet Coke every inning. I might be pissing nonstop, but I will have a Diet Coke every inning if you do dollar soda night. And keep doing this, and it will work. And I think the Mets got to get creative if they want to get people out of the ballpark, especially on a weekday. There's a million things to do. The Knicks and Rangers are about to go on a playoff run, potentially in June. So if the Knicks and Rangers are playing, there's good chances I'm not even going to be there. So they got to get creative with the pricing here.
No, definitely must come up with some creative ways, especially for sure with that whole situation and getting these guys out to the ballpark.
They won't do dollar beer night because we'll all be hammered, and that's probably a terrible idea, although I wouldn't mind it.
Well, the last time they did a dollar hot dog night, it was only up until the beginning of the first inning or the end of the first inning, and then it was over. Like, I was like, oh, can I have a dollar hot dog? They're like, no, it's over. I was like, it's only the first inning.
That's going to happen. It's going to be the little small bold letters, restrictions may apply, where it's like, once the Mets are down 1-0, there's no more hot dogs. I had the whole situation where I went to Nationals Mets opening day down there, and they didn't have bread, and it wasn't even Passover. I was like, how do you not rub bread on your steak sandwich on opening day? So, that happens. Opening day, they run out of food. There were some problems at the Mets home opener. I forget what they ran out of. I think they didn't have forks in like the club where I saw you in or something. But yeah, they got to get it together. At least give us until like the 7th inning. There's going to be people who want to do it all 9. We know it won't be open 9, but at least give us 7 innings of dollar hot dogs.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty simple. I took my dad to see the Doc Gooden game, and it was just like, "What do you want to eat?" He's like, "I don't know." I was like, "All right, let's just get hot dogs and fries," and then that was it. We were good.
Ooh.
I mean, I like trying all the other stuff too. My Mrs. Subway to Shea likes to try everything, so we go around and we do have a ticket plan for now. Some of the
Plan though,
things,
but you don't have all 81. What do you have, like 10?
never. I would never.
You have 10 or 20?
20. There's no
Okay.
10. I you know what I miss? I miss the, the 6-game build your own plans like they did in 2006. Like you got the Subway Series plan or the opening day plan
They
or only
stopped
Tuesday
those
plan.
smaller ones because they don't want it. They're like, "Oh, you only bought 6 or 10 games. We're not giving you playoff priority if the Mets make the playoffs." Now, they probably won't, but we'll see. They want to say 20 or up and you get playoff. Other than that, nothing. But I agree. I used to have back in the Shea days, like a Saturday plan one year, and it was like 12 games, 13 games. I was living in Connecticut. So it was a nice, every 2 weeks or, whatever it was, go to a Saturday game. But yeah, it is weird that they kind of stopped those mini plans. I think it would be smart if they did it. Maybe you do include, hot dogs with the tickets or something, a hot dog and a soda. They used to do those kind of discounts, but
Yeah.
I call Yankee Stadium kind of corporate park, and I hope Citi Field doesn't get there, but they are doing things here and there that have become a little bit too corporate for the average fan. And I get it, you got to make money, but they got to be careful that they don't completely outprice people, because I've noticed this pretty sizable difference with the food. Also, can we stop with the food with pennies like 1869? Can we make it even numbers? Like, I'd rather it be 30 cents more than it be 1869. And can we stop? COVID is over. Can we stop with the no cash? Like, what world are we living in that you only it doesn't affect me, but there's sometimes if it's something's like $8, I just want to pay it in cash and not scan my Apple Pay. And I know a lot of older people who usually only have cash sometimes. Can we stop with the no cash? Good God.
Whether I have this plan, whether I have like a shorter plan, I don't think it even affects me getting playoff tickets. Like they want you to pay it all at once. And I'm like, I can't do that, right? Like all in one shot. They want you to play for an entire, sleeve of playoff tickets. So sometimes you just can't do it. And, I did buy game 2 in the wild card game and I paid full price for that. And people got it last minute for like 10, $15. Like, come on.
Yeah, I'm telling you, this is exactly who I never get. There will always be tickets available. Playoffs, it's hard to predict, but yeah, they did get pretty cheap.
Game 3,
For
I think was like
playoffs.
$5 or $10
That,
for a playoff game.
that's insane.
That's wild. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Always last minute. I'm either like I tick pick, I check. Sometimes I'll search. I almost got a deal on Knicks. I'll search on Twitter Mets tickets and go to latest tweets. You got to be careful because there's scammers and stuff on there. But you go on Twitter and search. Some people they don't want to put it on the site and they want to give it away. So there's a tip for fans if you want a ticket is go on Twitter and check.
Yeah, for sure. Before we wrap up here, just a couple more players to watch here, and this is a 2-parter for Paul Goldschmidt. I mean, 265, 3 home runs, 12 RBIs, 826 OPS, and 34 at bats. That's a good size of at bats there against Adrian Hauser. So Adrian Hauser better be careful with him, as well as Quintana, a 600 batting average in 20 at bats, 3 home runs, 11. Man, this is a big weekend for Paul Goldschmidt. I wouldn't be shocked if he goes off.
I don't know why I hate this guy. Like, I wanted him on the Mets at one point, and obviously, we got Alonso now, but him and just the Cardinals in general. Like, this is not your mom and pop's Cardinals. They stink. They're probably not going to the
Ali
playoffs.
Marmol. I can't stand Ali Marmol.
Yeah, him too. He sucks. But just that old franchise facing them, whoever's on it, Nolan Arenado, guys, I just don't like that. I would love to sweep their ass. Like, just
Yeah.
take out a broom on Sunday, celebrate the Mets. You got the Knicks, the Mets go for a sweep. Maybe the Knicks go for a sweep, and maybe the Rangers go for a sweep. And we'll just sweep out St. Louis, Philadelphia, and DC, and remind you that New York runs the world.
Yeah,
Oh,
I hope so. And a big
fired
part
up
of
now.
that would be Starling Marte. He has a really good chunk of at bats against Lancelin, 333, 954 OPS. This is a big weekend for him too. He could really stand out here and continue to improve his standing as we talked about earlier in 2024 now.
Yeah, Marte, keep it up, man, and stay healthy. With the Mets, they're not really in a position where they could lose more guys. I mean, they're getting JD back. Now let's keep guys in the lineup. You lose Marte, then yes, Tyrone Taylor, CP, will become an everyday player. I don't want to overexpose Tyrone Taylor. I know he's been great, but some of these fourth outfielder guys, when you play every day, they get a little bit exposed, and then that average takes a dip. So I think it's been good what he's got so far. Maybe you play him one more time a week. But I don't think there's anything wrong with having a 300 hitter that's off the bench, because then you're going to need him late games to pinch hit for Narvaez or Nito, whoever's catching. So I think that's a good late game bench bat to have. But yeah, keep it on Marte and steal bases. Every time he gets on, I'd like to see him try. I mean, why not? I'd almost rather him be very aggressive and get caught than not be aggressive at all at the top of that order as a table setter, because the way Nimmo's playing and not getting on enough, you're the guy. You're the guy getting hits. You're the guy getting on. So set the table, move on over, and let the big boppers 3 to 5 drive you in.
You talked about at the beginning of the show how the Mets don't really have that pitching depth. They really have no depth in the lineup. And I'm not talking about like the kids, Acuna. They're not ready yet. Drew Gilbert, who was the closest to being ready, is now on the injured list. He's not going to be called. The closest person we have right now is probably G-Man Choi. And I don't think we want to see him come up and get a lot of at bats. So this roster, outside of losing Francisco Alvarez, they really have to stay healthy.
Yeah, and I'm more worried the pitching. I think if they lose an outfielder, like I said, they have Taylor. Catcher, obviously they can't afford to lose anyone, but pitching, if they lose another starting pitcher, I know we'll see Christian Scott, but then after him, I don't know how much more I want to see, like a Joey Lucchesi or one of these fringe 7th, 8th starters, David Peterson, if he's ever back, Tyler McGill, who's been a little too inconsistent. Pitching is where they're really struggling. But yeah, you're right. I mean, if they lose someone, Zach Short will go down, and then Zach Short will come back. Zach Short has options, which makes it an easy move for him to go. DJ Stewart, I think, is overexposed as an everyday player. Now we're not going to see him playing every day with JD back. So yeah, stay healthy. And I'd like JD to be able to play every day. I feel like early on they're gonna he'll maybe play Friday and Saturday, not play Sunday. Maybe they do 2 out of 3 and ease him in. But I'd like him to be, I can't say 162 games because he's missed almost a month, but I'd like to see him be, 135 game player now and be able to be out there. You're only hitting and running the bases, and that's it. They signed this guy to be a bopper and be out there every day. And I want him to play every day, and I want him to be successful every day. I want JD Martinez to be the 280, 25 homer, 80 RBI guy that he has been throughout his career. And if he is, like I said before, this lineup is dangerous.
Jake, I can't thank you enough for coming on and doing this series preview with me. Hopefully there's a lot more of these. There's going to be a lot of series, so love to have you on multiple times. Bring back everything that you're doing now and let everyone know what you're working on.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. It's always good to catch up. Love when the Mets are playing good. It puts me in a better mood. It puts you in a better mood, and it makes these shows easier to do, especially early in the season. You don't want the team to just be out of it in April, so I'm glad they're over 500. Thanks for everyone in the chat, everyone for joining. Yeah, my first episode, go subscribe, please. We have like 17 subscribers. We need to get the numbers up. It is called The Sick Podcast. It is with the Sick Media Network. The Sick Podcast, Mets Magic. Go get it. I believe it's youtube.com/@Sick Podcast Mets Magic. You'll find it. Follow Sick Pod Mets on Twitter. Follow me at Jake Brown Radio. Monday, I'll be hosting a post NFL draft. If you're a Jets fan, Gang's All Here podcast with the New York Post. We'll have that, and then we'll go into the off season. producing and popping on a few times. If you're a Rangers fan, on Up in the Blue Seats, taking you through the playoffs with Brian Boyle, Molly Walker, and Larry Brooks. So staying busy right now, and I'm watching the Knicks, doing some guest spots here and there on the Knicks. Thanks to Matt, till Mets do his part, chiming in, Doug, all the people in the chat. And yeah, just subscribe, rate, review, comment, and again, my YouTube as well, youtube.com/@JakeBrownRadio. I should at some point be posting a food review of Mel's Butcher Box, the burger that was my favorite burger I've ever had at a stadium. I'll post that on my YouTube coming up soon.
There's actually a Mel's Butcher Box where
New
I
Jersey.
live.
Yes.
Yes. Right around where I live. So if you're ever in town, I'll take you out over there.
Well, I'm friends with Mel, so tell her Jake Brown and tell her to give you something free. Tell her it's on me.
Most definitely.
She'll hook you up.
She's got some good shakes too. So,
well, I got to bring the lactate around for the shakes. My stomach can't always handle the shakes as well as they could when I was 25 years old. So.
All right, everybody. For Subway to Shea, you see all the stuff on the bottom where to follow: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok @Subway to Shea. Subscribe to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. I'm going to try to get an episode out to you tomorrow. I don't know. I had a guest that was supposed to come on. Scheduling wise, it didn't work out, so I may be doing it solo. We will see. If you didn't check out yesterday on the Morning Brew Sports Network, I was on, I co-host with Allison Chon from WFAN, as well as Eddie Presti, and we had on Evan Roberts as a guest. So make sure you check that out if you haven't done so as well. And thank you, everyone, tuning into this series preview. We will be back on Sunday night, usually, for the next one. I think it's the Cubs for a 4-game set. So get ready for that. 121 people in here right now. Thank you all. Thank you, everyone in the chat. Make sure you like and subscribe to not only myself, but as well as Jake Brown. Everyone, enjoy this weekend series. And always remember, let's go Mets.